Hi, I'm Rob Patz.
And I'm Kristen Stanton.
And this is the Rob and Kristen Show. Welcome to another edition of the Rob and Kristen Show. We're obviously not in the studio, though this is a beautiful studio. And if this was a green screen, it would be incredible. But we are here on Mackinac Island, and it's in Michigan, of course.
Yes.
And it's just so much fun.
It is. If you're not familiar with Mackinac Island, aside from maybe a fire truck or some emergency vehicles, there are no vehicles here. If you want to get around, you're going to get around by horse, by bike, or your own 2 feet.
Your own 2 feet. Now, I have to tell you, I love horses, so it's been amazing to see the great, and they look like they're having fun.
Yes, they do.
They look like this is what I was made for.
Yes.
And so we're having a great time. There's great food. There's
hiking.
Great food.
Hiking.
Great food.
Coffee.
And coffee, yes.
Ice cream.
And no, I'm not supposed to say that one. There's beautiful hiking here in Michigan. Michigan is known for this, but Mackinac Island is especially known for it.
Yes.
And prior to shooting this show, we have tried to talk ourselves into the idea of walking completely around the island. We don't know if that's going to happen. It's 8.2 miles all the way around. We think we're going to be able to do it. We're just not sure. Of course, you know, wherever we go, I have got to get coffee. And one of my favorite in the United States is Lucky Bean Coffee here on Mackinac Island.
You just want to get around, you can take a horse taxi. It's just beautiful in here. It never disappoints.
It never does. It's $12, so be, warned that it is going to cost you to come, but it's so worth it.
It really is.
This is our third time. And we were debating. Okay, I got to be honest. We were debating whether we were going to do this. And I said, it's really not a trip to Mackinac Island unless we get to go to the Grand.
Well, that is true.
You, it's like stepping into an old movie.
It really is. There is nothing more iconic and nothing more really Mackinac Island than the Grand Hotel. So on today's show, we have some really amazing, I guess, spy material. And we have a great guest with us here on the Rob and Kristen Show, author Amy Lynn Green. You've got to check out her book, The Codebreaker's Daughter.
The Codebreaker's Daughter. I'm Rob. Rob Pats. What? We're gonna talk like about spy stuff and cool things. So I am. I'm Rob. Rob Pats. By the way, she didn't know about that going in, so the laugh is actually legit. She really.
No, the only thing I knew is Rob said, "I've got something," and I'm like, "Okay." And I should have known it would be something that would just make me laugh, and that would be really it. I have no comeback for that, you know. No, but seriously, Rob, if I were to tell you, "Hey, I have a story for you, and it involves secret codes, double lives, and wartime toilet paper," what would you think?
It was sponsored by Charmin. I would say, of all of that, the toilet paper thing, and it's a great hook, and I mean it's pretty smart. The toilet paper thing is the thing I'm most fascinated about.
So, I mean, this is the truth. We are interviewing author Amy Lynn Green today about her new book, The Codebreaker's Daughter. A really awesome book, by the way, Amy. Thank you for being here with us on the Rob and Kristen Show. So I know that Rob was really wanting to know about this. Like, seriously,
Well,
toilet
first,
paper for
yeah,
real?
toilet paper. But I want to
paper?
ask: is she
Oh,
sponsored by Charmin? Is
I
that why
am
the toilet?
not,
Okay, I think we need to work on that. Little
but I
brand deal.
have to say, I love that you started with that because I do get a few fans asking about that and saying, "Was this a real thing in history?" So, do you want me to get into the toilet
I
paper now?
do.
All
Yes.
right. So I write historical fiction set in World War II, and this one is split between World War I and World War II. And there was an organization in World War II called the OSS, the Office of Strategic Services. And their job was to do all sorts of crazy things that were not military campaigns to help the US win the war. And some of those crazy things were things like, people would send in their vacation pictures from Japan and they'd try to piece them together to make a map of Japan's coastline so they could have more accurate information. So some of them were a little bit more normal, but then there were certain divisions that did things to try to undermine the morale of the Axis cause. So they would make leaflets to drop across enemy lines that would spread rumors about things that would undermine the Nazis. And one of the things they made was a special kind of toilet paper. And the toilet paper had a message in German about how terrible Hitler's ideas were so that you could wipe your bum with a swastika. And they distributed that across the line to German soldiers to kind of stir up unrest near the end of the war of like, you don't want to follow this guy. Like, look where he's taken you. Um, we have no idea how well they worked, but it is just a really interesting piece of history that I love to include in my books.
It is so interesting. So obviously you have to do a ton of research with these kinds of books. So like how much research are we talking about and how in the world did you uncover some of this stuff?
It's a lot. In another group, we were several historical fiction authors were talking about the research that they do and the time that it takes and the methods they use. And I always say that I start with kind of the boulders of my historical research. So big, thick books about things like the OSS or the war in North Africa or whatever kind of backdrop of the history that I'm talking about. And then I do the rocks, which are really specific things like the trolley system in Philadelphia during World War II, if that comes into my story, which it will to my next one, or what what was happening in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania during World War II, which comes into this one. And then I leave all the teeny tiny little pebble details for when I'm going through the book again, like, oh, what kind of shoe is my heroine wearing? Or what kind of car are we driving today? Or can I find a diner in this city to set this in that was real at the time? So that keeps me from spending all of my time doing research because if I got started, I might never stop. So once I have like enough to make the plot of the book, I will fill in the little details along the way once I'm going through the draft.
So how did you decide what you wanted as the foundation of this book, like the plot? How did you develop that?
Well, I knew I wanted a mother-daughter story. I have two daughters, and I had always wanted to write a story that meet the mother as a young woman and then see her later in life. And with that, I thought, oh, it would be so fun to do that with World War I and World War II and see how has the world changed, how has the behind the scenes of espionage changed between World War I and World War II, and I got a chance to kind of explore a new time period. The idea for the plot came actually, um, my first novel was set in Minnesota, where I live, and it was about prisoners of war in Minnesota. And after it was published, my husband's grandma said, "Oh, really interesting book. Like, did you know I worked in a canning factory with German prisoners of war?" And no one in the family had heard that story before. When she was just a young woman, that was her job. And the prisoners of war were brought in to help because there wasn't enough labor. And everybody was shocked that she had never mentioned it, but she just had never thought it was that interesting or important. And so, with this story, The Codebreaker's Daughter, I have a mom who has not told her daughter about some of the things she did during the Great War, inspired by kind of what secrets do we not know about even just the people who are closest to us.
Wow, so interesting. So in this book, you're talking, obviously the title is called The Codebreaker's Daughter, right? So if you were to tell us a little bit about the story of this book. I love the
Yes.
cover, by the way. If you were to tell us a little bit about the story without, spoiling it for us, give us a little bit of detail.
Yeah. So, this story follows Lillian in World War I as she works in the early days of U.S. code breaking during the Great War, and kind of how she gets into that secret work and what baggage she brings to it is something that her daughter later finds out working for the OSS, not on the toilet paper campaign, but creating rumors to disperse over the radio shows to the Axis powers. And both of them get caught up in some intrigue right before D-Day is about to happen. So really high stakes, lots of drama about whether what they learn is going to affect the D-Day invasion. So yeah.
Oh, so interesting. And you've got hidden messages.
I would have been a terrible code breaker, Kristen. That's what I realized in the process of this. Like, it was a delight to read what these women, there were men and women who worked as code breakers, but I was studying the women in particular. And the kind of things that they could figure out and infer from very little information, and the way you had to be so thorough in going through and testing and retesting and making changes. I'm a word person, and even though code breaking is technically letters, it's a lot more like math. And I would have done very poorly in that line of work.
So, how do you put yourself into a place in history that you didn't live through and into a mindset of somebody who would be living through it to feel what they would have been feeling at that time?
Well, one thing that was really nice about this book, you don't always get this, but the code breakers in World War I worked on a millionaire's estate, and it's kind of a long story how they got involved, but they had this compound where this man lived, and he had his mansion and his grounds, and that's still all standing today. And they give tours of it, and they tell you all about, like,
Really?
oh yeah, like most there not all of the original buildings are there, but his gardens are still there, the original mansion is there, so you can kind of put yourself there and say, oh, look, there's the bear cage where this eccentric millionaire had his bears, and get a sense of, like, how far away is that from the rose garden, how far away from that is the river. So it was really neat to be able to kind of step into the scene and think, okay, if I were this particular character with this history and these goals, what would stand out to me? What would be interesting? Um, Usually I get into the mindset of my characters more by doing a lot of reading of firsthand accounts, like letters and diary entries of people in similar places to my characters. And that really helps me kind of hear the 1940s voices in my head and start to be able to think and talk as if I were in a different time. So, Until time travel is invented, that's the best we can do.
Speaking of time travel, if you could time travel, where would you want to travel to and what time period?
Oh man, that is a really great question. If I wasn't afraid of like time travel being dangerous, I've always thought the World War II would be really interesting and would also save me some research. But I thought the Civil War and also like Old Testament biblical times would be
Okay.
just really fascinating to see because there are a lot of details that it would fill
Yeah.
in my head, I think. I
Yeah.
gave you 3 answers. That's kind of cheating.
No, I love it because they're all very different. Rob and I like to talk about time travel, and it's just one of those things that's just super interesting. I mean, it's something that obviously some people believe in, other people, nah, can't do it. But it's one of those things that you always think, well, if I could travel back in time and know that I could get back to the present time and
Yes.
know that it's not going to impact any of the present day details, right? What would I
Right.
really want to see? I mean, I think all the time about, the things in history about the Civil War era and just wondering what was life like. And that's why what I think is always so fascinating about Christian historical fiction writers is just getting into the mindset of how do you develop characters with and places, and knowing, because things have changed so much. And so, how do you make sure that those details are so accurate? And obviously, it's because you do a lot of research. But would you, obviously, with some of these other things, you can go and look. But what about the places that you can't visit? What about the
Yeah.
things that you can't, that you just have to read about and go, okay, well, what is this about? And how would I feel if I were walking through this laboratory?
Yeah, like one of my the book before this, the Foxhole Victory Tour, was set in North Africa, and I just don't have the budget or time right now to book a flight to Tunisia. And even if I could, obviously it's changed a lot since the 1940s. So for things like the terrain and what it looks and feels like, Google Maps is excellent. You can just kind of see a lot of pictures and kind of put yourself in the scene that way. But again, it's just reading a lot of first person accounts really helps to see through the eyes of people who described what they are experiencing. And one thing that's great about World War II is, first of all, the great volume of stuff that people have saved because of how close it is to where we are right now. Like
Mhm.
everybody has, even some of my friends have sent me like their letters from their family members who were involved in World War II. And the also maybe I shouldn't be so hard on modern day people. I think that in the 1940s people were better at describing things, especially in letters, than we would necessarily be today. So like the average GI Joe sent really interesting tidbits in
Mhm.
their letters to their family that make it easy to picture what was happening and experience it.
Mhm.
And we just don't have the attention span for long letters today, I think. So I'm really grateful that that resource is available to me when I research.
I love that. I know when Rob and I were in Columbus, Indiana, not that long ago, and we did a special for our show, and they have this war memorial there, and it has engraved, I don't know if you've ever been there, but there's these pillars, and on the pillars are actual parts of letters from the different wars, and it's super interesting. And we sat there and we read them, and it puts you, like, emotionally, it puts you into their life and what their life must have been like, and what was the life like of the people that were around them, and how did it affect their own, I guess, future. And it's so interesting, and that you have the resources to be able to do that. So, like, what are you working on now? Because obviously we've got this new book that just came out, but I know from all of the authors that I talked to, and by the way, go pick up this book. Um, I know from all the authors that we talk to, they're always like, 2, 3 books ahead, sometimes 2 series ahead. So, what are you working on now?
I'm always only one book ahead because I have a 1 year old and a 3 year old.
Aw.
So they are a great joy. it also takes me a year and a half to write a book. And sometimes I think even that's crazy. Uh, so my next book that I'm working on is set in Pennsylvania, so next door to where you are, Kristen, and is a World War II retelling of Little Women. So
Oh,
I'm getting inspiration from the characters and plot of that story and thinking like, "Oh, man, there are a lot of similarities actually between things that happen in that novel and things that can translate really well into the 1940s." So I'm having a blast. It's been a lot of fun to work on this one.
so any plans on setting any books in outside of like World War I, World War II, or do you feel
I've
like that's kind of your groove?
I thought about doing something immediately after World War II, like some of the early Cold War in the US. But again, one of the reasons I like this era is that there's just so much material, and you can see like video interviews with people. And I have grown to really love this. And also, usually, my ideas for the next book come from the research I'm doing on the one I'm working
Sure.
on now. And so they kind of line up in that way. I have just a little Word document where I put things of like, can't use this in this book, but maybe someday I'll get to it. So, very possible that I would do other things in the future, but I think right now, sticking around this era, maybe the 1950s, is where I'm going to be staying.
I love that. That is so awesome. So, are you an early morning writer or a late night writer, or hey, I've got two little kids, so I'm a whenever I have the time writer?
You have got it right there. There's one night of the week that as soon as my husband gets off work, I'm just writing from then until I go to sleep. I do childcare one morning with a friend. We kind of swap to work on projects. Sometimes I get a time when both girls are napping at the same time.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm dictating something into my phone while I'm pushing a stroller to the park. I think one of the great things about having little kids is that it gets rid of the idea that you have to have the perfect writing space and you've got to have your tea and your inspiration and lovely music in the background in order to sit down and write. It's just kind of whenever you can fit it in is a good time to be creative.
So, if there's one thing that you want readers to take away from your book, the one we've been talking about, Codebreaker's Daughter, what would it be?
I really thought a lot about identity and legacy while I was writing this book. So there are some characters who try to find meaning and significance in ways that don't end up ultimately fulfilling them, some to worse degrees than others. But the question several of them are wrestling with is like, why does my life matter? How should be spending my time? What does that look like in the future? And as a mom, one of the themes that I put in there was I can't, how to what to do when you realize that you've put your entire identity in being a mom and
Hmm.
your identity cannot bear that weight, because your identity is meant to be in Jesus and not in the titles that you have, whatever those titles happen to be. So obviously I want people to take away an interest in history, and I love it when people say, oh, I checked to see if this part of the story was real, or I went to the history page on your website. I'm a history nerd, so I love that too. But as far as the themes that I want people to take away, I would love people to think about like, oh, like what what in my life am I maybe making more important than it should be?
Huh. That is super interesting. Oh, Rob, there's Rob. He must have a
Hey,
question.
I have well, no, I have a question and I have two questions actually. So this is good. One, in any of your stories during World War II, do you have any radio people? Because radio played a huge
ah,
part in World War II.
yeah,
Who?
there have been some minor characters, and the one that I'm working on right now, one of the characters has a background in like amateur radio from the 1930s, and they would put on radio plays together for their local area.
Very
Um,
cool.
and with it's you're right, it is a huge thing, and the one of the oh, I can't say that without giving it away. There's a
No. Yeah.
development in radio in the next one
Yes. Don't
that
don't
the
don't do that.
climax hinges on. So yes,
But
the answer is
but
yes.
if you
But
need like a spy that has also been in radio, you know, I could do that for you.
excellent.
If you need a
If
character
you
development thing there, I can be
yeah,
your
I was
guy.
gonna say sometimes I use real people's names and stick them in there.
Hey,
So
that
you
would
know
be
you
awesome.
could be pretty
So
fun.
being
being the fact that you are in Minnesota. This is a key question for anyone that lives in Minnesota. What is your favorite casserole?
Okay, yes. So I am originally from Indiana, which was also pretty into casseroles, but not nearly as much as in
It's next
Minnesota.
level. It,
Yeah, it is. But one of the problems is my husband can't have dairy, and all casseroles are just inundated with dairy. But as far as my personal thing that I have enjoyed is the old Minnesota tater tot casserole dish. I'd never had it before I came to Minnesota. I
I've
didn't know
heard
it
of
was a
it.
thing.
I've heard of it, but I have not had it.
It's
it's
actually,
Yeah.
don't look too closely at it. It's not a looker, but it tastes great.
and also you don't want to know how many calories are in it
Oh yeah.
because
We
yeah,
never think about that when we're
don't
eating
don't think about the
casseroles.
calories at
No,
all.
no.
Amy, it has been so awesome having you here with us, and it's so much fun. I was having a great time listening in the background because I don't read, but this might be a book I would actually read.
So, Rob,
I'm
I
honored.
thought when you jumped on, I was almost positive that your question for her was going to have something to do with ranch dressing.
No, because that's an unwritten rule. She can't live in Minnesota and not have ranch dressing.
I do love ranch dressing.
See,
I
it's
used to put it on my plain spaghetti instead of spaghetti sauce as a kid.
my
It's
mom. My mom does that. Remember? And you went on and see,
Yes,
it's a thing. It
I
is.
I did. And when Rob was like, "Yeah, I need ranch for my pizza," Amy, I thought he was crazy. I was like,
I
"Who eats ranch on their pizza?"
I'm not proud of it, okay? But
I
I
am.
will
I
admit to it.
I live Team Ranch. I live Team Ranch. We go to Costco and I buy the big ones because you can't be out of ranch. That would not be. I would lose my Minnesota card if I didn't have a whole big thing of ranch in the. Because you never know when guests come over. And you got to offer them tater tots and
Sure.
little. You got to have the good stuff. Amy, it has been. It's been. It went right off the rails. It's been a great show, though. Thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it. Go out, get her book. Look, I'm going to do like this. Whoop, right there.
Yes.
Go get the book. Get it several times. Buy it for all your relatives, even people you don't know. And we appreciate Amy you so much for being with us on the show today.
Thank you guys so much. This was a lot of fun.
I have to tell you that I'm Rob Patz, was maybe my favorite thing we've done on the Rob and Kristen Show in 3 seasons of
Well,
the show.
And clearly you can tell I had no idea that it was coming.
No, that's the way I like to do it. It keeps her on her toes, which is important. But we have had so much fun on today's edition. What a great book.
Yes, it is a great book, and we've had so much fun here at Mackinac Island. There might not be any secret messages to
That
find.
we've found.
There might be someplace, who knows? But we really hope that you also enjoyed just a little bit of Mackinac Island, because we have an episode about Mackinac Island that we hope it's sometime later on down the road that you will tune in to see.
That's right. Hey, if you want to hear some of our podcasts, you can go to our app. It's the Abundant TV app, and just look for the Abundant Podcasts.
And from there you'll find all of our podcasts. So just a couple clicks over, if you're watching this on Abundant TV right now, just a couple clicks over and you'll find the Abundant Podcast. And this is season 2 of the Abundant Show. And the Abundant Show, unlike the Rob and Kristen Show, is a Bible study. Mm-hmm. So that we do hope that you join us for that. We really enjoy doing it.
We do. We have just so much fun. And hey, we want you to go out and live an abundant life.